Hey y'all, welcome to the Filling Station. Happy Friday. It's a new day, a new opportunity to make money in the market or just learn from the market, right? So let me go ahead and give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth in the stock market. It's just one of those avenues. This video is for educational purposes only. With that being said, y'all, let's get started. So we are looking at the VIX. And let me go ahead and get this. Yeah, we are looking at the VIX, and I normally like to look at that to see, kind of like give me an idea of how, the market may be trending or running or moving or, all of that good stuff, right? So I noticed that we just got a pop here with the VIX, and it broke through that 1304, which I had marked from yesterday, which tells me that, and we're looking at the 5 minute chart, it tells me that we are going up, which means the SPY should be coming down. Let's look and see. It is. So when the VIX is up, which is here, normally the SPY is down, which is here. Right. So back to the VIX, we are going to look at it on a higher time frame, which is the 30-minute chart. It tells us we got support right, resistance right here, and which is the ATR trailing stop at the 1311, and that's exactly where it just stopped. So VIX ran up, got rejected, only to come back. However, if it breaks this 1311 and this 1315, it's broken through a key level of resistance. I call that double resistance because we have the ATR trailing stop and we have the 50 EMA. So I will be paying attention to that alert from the VIX. If it goes beyond that place, we could continue up with the VIX, which means down with the stocks. With the SPY, right? That's something to think about. So looks like we have a little, if we can get past this 1315 area with the VIX, we could be in trouble, to the upside with the stocks. I keep saying stocks, with the SPY. Let me say that right. So, okay, let's go to the SPY and look and see where we are. Okay, this is the 1 hour. I like to start on the 30-minute, but looking at it from the 1 hour, we see that we have been consolidating for a while and we're breaking out of that area. So this is going to be a trouble place or an area of support at the 521.08. SPY has broken through a level of support that it held for a while. So in my opinion, it has broken through strong support, right? So we know we have the ATR trailing stop, which we know is strong support, and the 50 EMA. So that's kind of like strength right there. If we break below, I would say this 520 area, 520.75, 520.80 area, we could very well continue to the downside, which means the VIX is going to go to the upside. So this is the 1 hour chart. Consolidation are in the gathering spot here, and then it tried to break out here. Well, it did break out here. Let's say that, right? So looking at the 30-minute chart, we kind of see the exact same thing that we just saw on the 1 hour. We came down and broke out of the gathering spot, which would have been here. I'll make that bigger so we can see it, right? This would have been our gathering spot on the 30-minute chart. I can go ahead and mark that. I marked one earlier. Okay. I'm going to delete that because I don't like how that line looks. And if you notice, our 5 and 50 looks like it's trying to cross too, right? So this is our gathering spot, and I'm going to just leave it like that because it's right there when it started breaking out of that area, right? So, and I just did the bottom of it because I have a line up here, so I'm okay with that. The 5 and 50 looks like it's been trying to cross. SPY made a low of 521.44. Again, if we break below this 521.07, which we know that's strong support, we could very well continue to the downside. Looking at it on this 30-minute chart, price came down. It looks like some buyers was there. I always say, who's going to win this battle? Are they going to take it back to the upside, or are we coming down? Based on what I see, the 5 and 50 is trying to cross here. We could very well continue to the downside, right? That's something to think about. And look at the MACD. We had a crossing here and a crossing here, which would have been an entry for me. Let me say that. If I was trading this to the downside, I would have looked at this MACD 5 and 50 crossing here. That's the 5 EMA and the 50 EMA, the light blue and the white line here. And then I would have looked here at the MACD crossing to give me a confirmation. Again, I like to look for more, more than one confirmation. We are oversold here. and that's something that we need to think about or consider, but we can, pay attention. I always say trade what you see. So right now I did mark a pre-market high for the SPY and a pre-market low. Thus far it was 523.79 as the high, and then no, that was yesterday's high. Let me go ahead and remove that. Okay, so the pre-market high for SPY is this 523.09, which is right here. There we are, 523.09, and the low was 522.14, which was in the same area as yesterday's low. So when we broke through that, we have broken through a key level of support. So now we have come down and made a new low, which is at the 521.44. Are we going to stay here, or are we going to continue to the downside? Again, I always say trade what you see and let the charts let you know or tell you, what we're doing, and not rush into your trades. Pay attention to the movement of how it's moving. And right now it looks like we're consolidating right here, or creating a gathering spot at this 521.44 range. So it will need to break this area in order to continue to the downside and break through support. And yeah, just again, trade what you see. Don't rush into the trades right now. We understand that under 521.44 we have broken through another level of support. We can come down to the 521.07, and if we break that level, I have 520.76. So we have some levels to the downside, which y'all, I think I said in yesterday's video, pre-market, I did not trust the move to the upside. And this is why, based on the patterns that I've seen and, the things that I've seen. We made a higher 52-week high, but normally it tends to get rejected and come back to the downside. And sometimes when we get a FOMC or any of that, the market may not react that day. It may react the next day. Let's say that, right? So we are look, we're right there at that level of support, and we have broken through that and created another level, 521.40. So it came down just a little bit. So SPY is declining, as we can see, and I'm going to make that 521.40. Yes. Okay, so that right now is our pre-market support, overall support. Well, we're continuing to the downside. So we're going to let the SPY do what it does, right? And I'm going to go to SMCI, and we're going to look at it on a 30-minute. This to me is the better day to trade SMCI because the options are cheaper, but you have to be on the right side of it and buy off of rejection, meaning this would be rejection, and then you will buy off of support, meaning if it comes here, find support and bounces to the upside. So pay attention to, where your candles are. Sometimes it's best to look at a wider view, a longer view, meaning a 30-minute or the 1 hour versus the 5-minute and the 2-minute or 1 minute, however you trade, right? So SMCI is declining. If it breaks below the 952.95, it's broken through the 50 EMA and the ATR trailing stop, kind of like the SPY, right? So I would pay attention to those areas. And again, there's gaps to the downside and gaps to the upside. My encouragement to you, if you trade SMCI, is to watch your charts very, very carefully, because this stock can move. You can make some decent moves and some decent money, but you have to be on the right side and pay very close attention because it moves really, really fast, right? And if I'm not mistaken, it moves like $100 per day based on, well, they changed it. Yeah, it moves $112 per day. And looking at the daily chart, we have some gaps. Those white dotted lines are gaps that need to be filled to the downside. So we have a lot of gaps that need to be filled to the downside for SMCI, but we do have some to the upside. So again, if this is something that you trade what you see, mark your levels, your gathering spot, buy off of rejection, and buy off of rejection and or support. Let me say that, right? So let's go to NVDA, and this is NVDA on the daily chart. And looking at this, you're like, how in the world does she understand those charts, right? I say the same thing sometimes. But this is NVDA on a 1 hour chart, right? This was yesterday's gathering spot, and we traded in that range for a while. And one thing that I have to remember is I used to forget to go to the higher time frames, right? I would normally stay on the 5-minute or the 2-minute. So I needed to remember, always go and look at a bigger view or a wider view of it so I can get an overall of what's going on with the stock, right? So technically, NVIDIA has been going sideways, right? Are we breaking down out of this gathering spot? Are we breaking out of that consolidation area? You know, we have a little up and a little down, but it's still in that, it's in a range, right? So now it looks like on the 30 minute, the 5 and 50 is trying to cross. This would have been our gathering spot here, and we have broken out of that. So are we going to the downside? How do I keep hitting? Okay, so are we going to the downside? That's something to think about, right? So let's go and see if we can find some levels of support to the downside. We know we have this ATR trailing stop here, which is at the 906.87. So if we break below this area here of 909.56, we could very well come down and test this 906.87. And if we break that level of support, we have a 50 EMA here at the 904.58 level. And if we break that level of support, we have 894.49, which that's something to think about, because it does look like it wants to break out to the downside. But again, I would just pay attention to what the charts are saying. Remark your levels of support. 894.49 is the ATR trailing stop on the 1 hour. And the 50 EMA on the 1 hour is 904.58. So those can be levels of support for NVIDIA. If you trade NVIDIA, wait on the chart to let you know. You know, we could have bought here off of rejection, and it made lower lows. That's another confirmation. The 5 and 50 is about to cross. It has not crossed. Let me say that. Looking at it on the 5 minute, this is what we were seeing. It broke out of consolidation, the gathering spot. That's that purple line we just created there. We made lower lows. We could have entered, you know, based on the lower lows and breaking out of the gathering spot and traded this to the downside. My concern would have been this candle. Is it going to give us a signal back to the upside? It looks like it's getting rejected at that 910 area, which is the 5 EMA. So I would definitely watch NVIDIA to see if we're going down. And if it gives us a signal back to the upside, just pay attention to your levels of support, right? Or your levels of resistance. What's going to stop it from going higher, or what's going to keep it from falling? Those are things that you have to be mindful of throughout the day, right? Just something to think about. And Apple, I noticed Apple yesterday, just looking at doing the review. Apple had some news, and you know, it fell all the way down, right? So this is Apple on yesterday. It ran up, consolidated first, ran up, tested this 177.66, and it came all the way down. That 5 and 50 crossing was good signal, good confirmation. So if you would have entered this trade when the 5 and 50 crossed, that would have been at the 176.24 or the 176 level, right? You could have stayed in this trade until the bottom is at 170. So that would have been a nice profitable trade based on following the charts. Now there was some consolidation here that, you know, would have took me to a different place mentally, let me say that. But I see the 5 EMA and I'm under the 5 EMA, right? So I definitely would have been looking at a smaller time frame, and there would have been other things that I would have seen as confirmation. But if we look at Apple now, we see that on the 30-minute chart, resistance is at the 171.82, but it looks like we're declining, and Apple has some gaps to the downside that need to be completely filled, right? So that's something to think about. Where are the support areas for Apple? I see it as an inside week candle, and if it breaks below the 170.29, so we're going to say that's support right now, 170.29, it could very well fall down to the 168.49. Again, this was an inside week candle. We are gathering, consolidating in this area here. It looks like we're trying to break out of that area. We could very well come down to the 168.49 for Apple. That's something to think about. If that's something that you trade, definitely be careful. I always say trade what you see. This is not financial advice. Anything could change at any given moment during this market, right? So we've looked at Apple, we've looked at NVIDIA, SMCI, and the SPY, and we're going to go back to the VIX really quick just to see where we are. Okay, it looks like we may have some reversal candles here on the 5 minute. Let's go to the 130 minute. Again, we're having trouble getting past this 1311 place, right? Just keep in mind, we've tested it twice. If we get past this, it's going to be strong resistance that was broken, meaning it's probably going to come up, and it could very well test this 200 EMA at the 1381, which in turn would tell us that the SPY is going to decline. right? And again, nothing is set in stone. Anything can change. Some news can come out and it shifts everything. Let me say that. But again, I always say trade what you see and let the charts lead you, right? So that's something to think about. Watch the VIX and see if we're going to break above that 1311 or that 1312 or, that 1315 area. When we do, we could very well continue to the upside. Looking at the SPY once again, we see the SPY is declining and looks like it came down and made a new low. It has. SPY came down to 521.26. So right now that is our low, pre-market low. 521.26 is our pre-market low, and our support would have been at the 521.07. So we're kind of really close to a level of we need to pay attention to this SPY. If it breaks below this or keep declining, we're breaking through support and we can continue down to the 518.94 based on this 30-minute chart, right? And that's the 200 EMA on the 30-minute chart. Yes. So support, if we break the level of where we are now, I would say under the 521 area for the SPY, we could very well come down to 518.84. That's something to watch, and yeah, something to think about. SPY 2 was an inside week, and yeah, we got some levels to break down. Let me say that. But I would say just trade what you see, pay attention to your charts, and y'all, I'm so super excited, y'all. Today is going to be a great day, and we have to keep saying that. We have to make the day great sometimes, right? So thank you so much for watching. I hope this video is very, very helpful. Very helpful. I always like to say, look, have an awesome day today. Have an awesome day today, right? And be blessed as well as a blessing unto others. Until next time.